at $5.78 per bushel. Wheat prices have seen some wide price swings over the past week and are seeing some consolidation and position evening ahead of the weekend. Export demand for U.S. wheat has shown improvement recently, although the country does continue to face stiff competition from other wheat exporting regions of the world. That's a look at the ICE futures and U.S. markets for Friday morning, November 2nd. In Winnipeg for Markets Farm, I'm Phil Franz Warkentin.
The end of 2018 is a perfect opportunity for you to save big. Visit Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John and take advantage of 0% financing or choose cash back on current year New Holland tractors and equipment. It's out with the old and in with the new. The New Holland year-end celebration ends December 31st. So hurry into Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John now. For commercial use only, customer participation subject to credit qualification and CNH Industrial Capital Canada Limited approval. Standard terms, conditions, and other restrictions apply. Down payment may be required.
Men, a bit of advice from Carter's Jewelers. Don't just speak love, show love. And we have so many ways that you can show and tell. Carter's Jewelers, 9908 101st Avenue.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Boland.
Good morning. Welcome to Trev Talks. We are here on a lovely snowy, I guess it's Friday morning. So we are actually looking out the studio right now. If you can see behind me, we're blanketed in snow. We lasted until October 31st, and of course we are now into winter. Speaking of no snow, we've got MLA Dan Davies joining us. Dan, is there snow down there?
You want me to tell the truth?
I want you to. Yeah. You tell us that you are in an area that no longer is covered in snow.
Yes, there is no snow, but it is raining like crazy. I know you can't see it. You don't have to shovel rain, but
you know what though? I'd rather shovel snow than deal with rain.
Well, the rain messes my hair up more than snow. That's one of the things.
So have you started growing hair again since I seen you last?
Well, it's November. I'm growing it on my face.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, that's all right then. So you are joining us today. Of course, the hot topic going on in the province of British Columbia right now is the referendum that is in everybody's mailboxes, and we, and it's funny because on some of the local social media sites, folks have been calling you out. And just recently, I mean, it was great. You responded to one of the gentlemen there that called you out, and I had commented on there that, we'll deal with it on the show. What's going on? What's the feeling down south? I see that our premier has officially now done his referendum and filled it out, and of course he was very proud to note that in the media there either yesterday or today.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say, and this Monday, Elections BC is releasing the preliminary results of the referendum, not the results of the voting, but the turnout. So we'll get a better understanding, how many people are actually engaged in this process. If I look at my riding, from Port Nelson to Taylor, I think people are pretty engaged on this. But being engaged and actually filling the ballot out are often two things. It's really hard to tell. And you run campaigns, you get lots of people talking, and you think, hey, this is going to be a good turnout. And, it was an improvement in the municipal election, 20%, but still 20%. Well, this referendum, we need to have an unbelievable turnout. We absolutely have to, because this is, undoubtedly probably one of the biggest decisions made in decades that's going to be made right now for us. Here in Vancouver or Victoria or the larger centers, the feeling is the same. But because they've eliminated that threshold of counting or having rural, having a say, it's a base 50% plus one. We're already behind the eight ball. That's why we need to make sure that we get everybody talking about this, everybody filling out their ballots, and everybody sending their ballots in. We won't really know until the dust settles. It's like any election. I mean, and I guess I can clarify that a little bit too, Trev. Initially, when proportional representation was first being talked about, they were actually had the edge. It was 55% in people were in favor of that. And then as they start seeing the system, this flawed system rolled out, and it's nothing even to do with PR even, just the mechanics of how the referendum was rolled out by government, people started looking at that, and the most recent poll that was done, it's now a third in favor, a third opposed, and a third undecided.
Wow, so huge change from the 55%.
Huge, and like I say, people started, overall, people look at electoral reform as, how can we improve the way that we vote? And I think people are favorable to that, no doubt, and so are we. I mean, there are things that we can do. But then, government went through their process and at the end delivered this referendum process we're in, and it's full of holes. And I think people just don't want to. They want to see a transparent process, and that's what I think people are worried about.
Well, and I think that's what comes back to it, right? I mean, nobody really likes being told what way they should vote. They like to have the facts, and part of the problem with this system is that nobody's been given the facts. You look at this, this ballot that we're supposed to fill out, and I mean, we've seen them online, we've got them in our mailboxes, and you look at this thing and not. You guys have been heavy promoting the one and done. We've now seen, we've seen some comments about, listen, if you're for first past the post, which for folks that aren't really following it, that is our current system. That is a system that has worked, in BC and other provinces for generations. And they're saying, vote to keep it first past the post, but as a worst case scenario, vote to go the urban PR form, which is the very last question as your first choice if it were to go PR. What do you respond to? And I know this has been on Facebook, and I know you've been dealing with this a little bit. What is your response to that? Because it's been, the Liberals have a really heavy, just vote in the top section, leave the bottom section blank. But now we're seeing that there might be some benefit to actually filling out part of that bottom. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and at the end of the day, it's up to the voter. Truly, if you want to make that choice, make that choice. We are recommending, like you said, to just do one and done.
Yeah.
Section 1, vote first past the post, deliver it. Your ballot will be counted. It is not null and void if you leave the one side blank, or if you vote first past the post and fill in the second. It is still not it is a valid vote. So the reason why we're saying is don't go into the second part is because all three systems are completely flawed. All three systems have an incredible amount of missing information, big holes in them. And the biggest ones that we've been fighting about is the government cannot tell us how big our ridings are going to get. And that's really important for us in Peace River North. Is my riding going to include Peace River South as well? I don't know. They won't tell us. Is it going to go all the way to, in some of the models, are these mega take up the entire north, the whole right across over to the ocean?
Wow.
Now, people need to know that before they vote.
Oh, I would say so, but we're not going to know that, and that's part of the problem. I think that's part of the flaw.
You won't know that, and all three systems have those questions. Are the MLAs going to be appointed off of a party list? Meaning, in all the models, there's MLAs are appointed, which has never sat well with me. Appointing MLAs to an elected assembly just does not sit well for me.
Agreed.
But are they going to come off a closed list where the party secretly does it and pays off their donors or their loyal lieutenants, or so these are questions that government cannot answer. And Melanie Mark, and she's not alone. Nobody in that legislative assembly can answer these questions until after the referendum. It's like, my God.
Which is too late. And it's funny because we've seen lately a lot of previous MLAs or premiers or party leaders have all come out. There's 4 or 5 now that have come out against PR for the province of British Columbia.
Well, and we're across the board, all parties. The NDP, the last 3 NDP premiers have come out opposed to it. Green Party executives and former leaders have come out against it. You're right. I mean, this whole piece, and I just want to finish up really briefly before I talk about that is, so going back to the 3 pieces, they're all bad. It's all, and I relate this, Trev, to, would you rather die by lethal injection, the electric chair, or firing squad? I mean, all the end options are the same. They're not good. And that's why we're saying, you know what? Don't even worry about it. It's not going to wreck the ballot. They're all bad. And we're going to have to, if should things go forward, that's going to be our new fight, down the road.
Wow. Yeah, no. And I mean, for my own experience, I mean, in being in politics for the long time that I have and the long time that you have, I guess what I like about First Past the Post is it gives me the feeling like I have been able to decide. I've been able to be a part of it. I don't want somebody representing me. And you know what? And we see it very often up here. You brought up the municipal elections, and we see it up here very often where people want choices. They want to be able to choose who they're going to vote for. They want to be able to see who's going to lead. And some of the lowest voter turnouts that have been in municipal elections have been when there's been an acclamation of mayor, an acclamation of council, and people don't feel like their choice is going to matter. And I think First Past the Post is what gives them the feeling that they matter, that their voice, their opinion, and them taking the time to do this actually matter.
Well, and, we really worry, that it's not worry. I mean, it's almost plain as day. This is a protection system that's being put in place, and it's being put in place by the Green Party. The Green Party, obviously, they signed their contract, the supply management agreement contract, which is their marriage contract to keep them together as one body. And right in that contract, the Green Party, that was one of the Green Party demands to be in this marriage, was to have this referendum today. So this is a mechanism to keep the Green Party forever and bolster the numbers. I mean, if we were even just to look at the last election, they got around 16% of the popular vote in the province, but they only got 3 seats. 16% of the population amounts to about 15 seats. So they would get another, 12 seats appointed.
Wow.
Off of one of their lists.
Wow. Can you imagine?
So
you imagine that many
seats?
seats?
Being appointed.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing. I mean, they know the legislature will increase in size, which means a significant impact again to the taxpayer, because the taxpayer pays for government.
Yeah, I think we pay enough taxes right now.
I couldn't agree anymore.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I think we pay enough taxes right now.
But, you throw another 15 MLAs into the legislature, that's millions and millions of dollars, by the time you get it all put together.
Oh, it's huge.
But, so this is, nobody's asked for this referendum. No one has asked, this referendum came out of nowhere. Well, it came out of that agreement between the Green Party and the NDP. They couldn't win. They couldn't win under the system, so they're changing the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny.
They're changing the game so they can win.
And let's go back in time. So we go back in time to the last election, your first election as an MLA. The BC Liberals win government, or enough seats to win government. Christy Clark, the leader and the premier of the province at the time, comes up to Fort St. John. And one of the questions that she was asked by, there was myself was there and her worship Laurie Ackerman were there, and there was a couple others. And one of the questions was, why are you not doing a deal with the Greens? And she says, straight out, she says, I cannot agree to what their demands are. And let's fast forward now a year and 3 or 4 months later, whatever it's been. And we realize why she couldn't agree to that. And nobody should have agreed to that. John Horgan should not have agreed to the fact that he is willing to change the entire way the province votes just in order to secure government.
Well, and absolutely. I mean, this, what we're seeing unfold, what we saw unfold, a year ago now, or just over a year ago, that would be the norm under any one of the proportional representation systems. That's the norm. In fact, that's just a sample of it, because you already had the deals made. Now, just imagine adding 3 or 4 more parties in there that have their own, usually narrow agendas, because it usually enables farther right or farther left, less issue parties, single issue parties to come in. So now you're going to be dealing with all of them to try and get a deal made. So the complexity of government under a proportional representation system, and we do see this around the world. People use other examples. Oh, it works great in Germany. It works great here. It works great there. Well, it depends on what you look at. I mean, Angela Merkel right now is just, she has decided that she is not going to do this anymore. She's had a horrible go this year, trying to be, trying to stay on as chancellor, and the whole focus of those governments that are under PR, it's not about governing and setting policy and being there for the people. It's about holding the party together. It becomes all about the party and survival mode. And that is the last thing we need. We need to, British Columbia is already struggling to try and attract these private investment dollars. We're already seen as a place that's kind of hard to do business with. I mean, that's no secret.
No.
Well, imagine a government that is entrenched constantly in infighting, backdoor deals, trying to stay in power. Well, the big companies of the world looking at investing in British Columbia, that's just another piece of instability that I don't think they're going to want.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And I guess that's my biggest thing. And some of the discussions that I've had with local people, and Rick and I talk about this a lot because it's in the news. So we'll be in the office and we'll be chatting about this. And the North needs a majority government in order to do what the North does. And I know that's very different in the South, but it's now becoming very apparent in the Northwest that they're now very similar to what the Northeast has always dealt with, where majority governments get projects like Site C and roads done and highways done because they have the ability to plan without all the disruption that you're talking about that we're seeing in other countries that are currently under PR. And I guess that the worrisome factor for us and is the same for investors. We're sitting here in the North. We need investment dollars. We need stability and resource extraction, resource development, because we do it the safest and the best of anywhere in the world, right here in British Columbia, and especially in the North. So, the fear for us is PR all of a sudden, is going to open up all these channels to getting nothing done. And I guess that's what surprises me the most about, somebody like John Horgan, our current premier. I mean, for John to be in favor of PR, which means that without these side deals and these agreements, he may never be the premier again. It's crazy. It absolutely leads me to believe. I talked last week with the interim leader from the BC's Conservatives, and one of the things that I brought up was Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island did this similar thing in 1996. 68 or 66% in favor of going to a PR system. The premier steps back at the time and says, listen, only 29% of people got engaged in this. So yes, it is 68%, but we're not going to go forward. Is that something that we might see John Horgan doing? Has there been discussion about, he's doing this to appease Andrew Weaver, which, I mean, everything he did for Site C and LNG, which did come to fruition, but the steps he took, from before an election, you've got a hard case that this guy wants nothing to do with LNG and he wants nothing to do with Site C. All of a sudden, then it's, we're going to have a look at it, we're going to do a report on it, and it just seemed to suffice Andrew Weaver, so all he would do is blog about it, but not actually disrupt government. Well,
and Andrew Weaver. I've said he would log Stanley Park if he can get PR. That like he's lost a lot of respect within his own Green Party caucus and in his Green Party
as he should.
Because he's against this, but all right, I'll make a concession. He's against this, I'll make a concession. So all these things that he's been opposed to, he's making concessions for, because his only goal at the end of the day is proportional representation, because it goes back to the whole survival mode piece. Now, you had mentioned about the voter turnout. This isn't the first time we've had this referendum. We've had a referendum on proportional representation. We voted on a simple yes or no question. It was on, do you want the single transferable vote? Yes or no?
Yeah, I remember that.
2005 to 2009, very simple question, lots of research done. There was lots of public engagement done. There were thresholds put in place. The government of the day said, this is the electoral reform, part of our democracy we're fiddling with. We're not going to make it a minimum majority. We're going to put it at 60%, because then you get a public mandate.
Yeah.
If you have a good voter turnout and they vote, overwhelmingly in favor, all right, the public want to see this. You've got good buy-in. Then we got to make change. But this government has got rid of all of the thresholds. They've got rid of the, the rural piece, where you had to have in the last referendums, 60% of the ridings also had to have buy-in. So that way, it did protect everybody who lived, in the up island, people who lived in the interior. Their voices were heard. They weren't drowned out by 2/3 of the population that live in one concentrated area. So that protection piece was there. There was a minimum voter turnout. But Trev, those are all gone in this referendum. All of them, except they dropped the 60% down to a 50% plus one. That is the only safeguard. This is a binding referendum. So if we have, and this is right on the heels of a municipal election throughout the province, I'm sure there's a bit of voter fatigue out there.
Yeah.
This is a mail-in referendum that People are. I've had hundreds, and I'm not even joking, hundreds of messages of people that just don't understand the ballot and what it means. Some have said, I'm not even participating in this. I really think we're going to have a low voter turnout across the province on this referendum. So let's say we get 20% and it passes by 55%. Well, 6% of the population of the province of British Columbia, 6% roughly, has now just changed our electoral reform process.
Wow.
And that's not right.
No, it's not. And
that is not right. I mean, the Prince Edward Island did it with way more than that, and they said that's not a mandate to move forward with this.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. We're going to, Dan, I'm going to cut you off real quick. We got to go to a real quick commercial break, and then we're going to come right back. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on, but let's hit this commercial break real quick. Dave's shaking his finger at me, and then we'll be right back. So stay on with us, folks, and we will be back shortly.
Dry, itchy, dehydrated skin. It happens to a lot of us at this time of year. So the HB Health and Body Wellness Spa is making November all about facials. Stop in and check out their new facial prices, including infrared facials for $85, microdermabrasion for $115, anti-aging and deep pore cleansing for $125, and health and wellness facials for $80. Packages also available. The HB Health and Body Wellness Spa, voted best spa and estheticians in the 2018 People's Choice Awards. Find them on Facebook or visit hairbin.com.
This is beautiful. Wait, there's more? I didn't expect this at all. These are all the things that new visitors to our shop say when they walk into St. John Advertising and Promotion. If you haven't been yet, you'll say them too. People also ask how long they've been there. SJA Promo has a 30-year history in our community. They're under new ownership as of spring of 2017, but all the logos, embroidery, and Reconcare are still there. For new clients, setup fees are minimal between Casey's Pub and MC Rehab on the Airport Road. SJA Promo goes out of their way to make you look good. Stop by for a visit Monday through Friday.
One man in the heart of Fort St. John on a mission.
Jesse, that's been done before.
Oh, all right. In a faraway land.
Yeah, that's also been done. And you've just wasted like 15 seconds of your ad time. Just be normal.
Oh, okay. Hey, my name is Jesse Lambert, owner of JD Knives and Custom Works, Fort St. John's very own custom knife shop. We make leather goods, we offer sharpening services, and of course, make custom knives. Find us on Facebook and at jdknives.ca to find out more. Rated A for awesome.
Oh, for crying out loud!
From coffee farm
and wheat farm
to 100% Arabica beans perfectly roasted.
And fresh baked goodness, perfectly toasted.
To premium roast coffee
and new McCafe bagels. Baked fresh daily, toasted to order.
McCafe bagels and premium roast coffee.
Perfectly inseparable. McCafe, a new way to cafe. At participating McDonald's restaurants in Canada.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca. This is Trev Talks with Trevor Bolin.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us now or just catching us online, we are on the phone with MLA Dan Davies. We're talking about everything British Columbia, but I mean, mostly PR because that is what's happening right now. Dan, off the air, you and I were talking, and I made the comment, and I said, I don't get why Horgan would do this. Like, I put myself in his place. I'm the Premier of British Columbia.
Yeah.
I stole the government, so I stole the rights to be Premier because that's honestly how I view it as to what he did. I've partnered up with Andrew, and you said something that made me go, what? What was that? It was about the agreement.
This, people are wondering, he does have a lot to lose. I mean, there's no majority governments under PR.
No, there never will be. We'll never see it again.
Minorities. So he's, I talked about the supply management agreement, the CSA agreement that they have between the two parties to make them government right now. Well, it not only does it say that he will hold this referendum, he will campaign in favor. The NDP is obliged by contract to campaign in favor of it. So it's pretty clear why he has to do what he has to do.
That is unreal, though. What an unreal reason to do this. You've now.
Well,
yeah.
This is. I mean, again, this is just a little hint of stuff we're moving forward to. Like It's crazy, and it worries me. But, there are things on the horizon. I mean, we've got a really good team. We've got lots of great people out there. We've got a by-election coming up in Nanaimo.
Yeah, so that was one of the things we posted on Facebook, and of course, that got some questions. So one of the current sitting MLAs, maybe even, is he a cabinet minister, or is he, where does he fall into that?
Well, he's a government MLA.
Yeah.
We believe part of his reason he was overlooked. I mean, he's a pretty loyal MLA, NDP MLA. He's been around for a long time, and he never got a cabinet position. So we think that's partially the motivation for him running for mayor of Nanaimo, to which, of course, he won by a landslide.
Oh, he did, but and Nanaimo's had some huge problems. Nanaimo's had some very
on their city council.
Oh, yeah.
Their city council problems, they've had some big issues. And so he's up there now. He ran for mayor. He is going to remain on as the MLA.
Until when?
Until after the by-election.
So when's the by-election? Has that been called yet?
It has not been called. The premier said it would be before they vote on the budget, which could be as late as the middle of March. So he's gonna try and double duty, which I have no idea how you double duty on two full-time jobs.
No.
One being the mayor of Nanaimo and one being an MLA.
Well,
and
especially and doing what he needs to do to fix some of the issues that have been going on with Nanaimo. I mean, Nanaimo's council has made provincial and quite possibly national news in the past 4 years from residents that were outraged as what's going on. So you've got a guy now, and I'm imagining he's getting sworn in somewhere probably next week as the mayor.
It'll be soon.
Yeah, and I mean, you remember what it was like being on council here with Lori going to that, quote, full-time position, unquote. You don't have time to do anything, let alone be an MLA and a mayor.
No, you're married to your community. I mean, that's the reality. And Sheena Malcolmson, she's the candidate now that's running for the NDP as for MLA there, but she's also the member of Parliament. So, I mean, unfortunately, Nanaimo's not going to have much great representation for the next little while. Well, there's all these pieces that are put together. But, we have a great team. We're close to getting a candidate in place up there, and we're going to be, certainly hoping that that we get this whole piece together here in regards to getting one of our MLAs elected.
What riding was he in? What riding was he the MLA of? Langley, or?
Who's that?
Who's the new mayor?
The new mayor was the MLA for Nanaimo.
Oh, he was. So he was the MLA for Nanaimo. Now he's the mayor of Nanaimo.
Well, he's also the MLA for Nanaimo. He's doing both jobs.
Okay. So now you guys, you guys under Andrew Wilkinson are now. I mean, you've got to pick the prime candidate because this could literally turn the House upside down, could it not? If you guys were to win this by-election.
Oh, it will. It'll change the dynamic completely because it puts us at a tie.
So you would be what, 43-43?
That's correct. And
but that would be.
And the speaker gets to do tie breaks.
Yeah.
But the speaker's supposed to be seen as non-biased.
And he's an ex-liberal.
That's correct. And after a little while of him always voting in favor of the government, you can go to the lieutenant governor and say, this isn't working. The speaker's definitely not biased.
He needs to go.
And he needs to go, and hopefully the lieutenant governor will trigger a by-election. So there's lots of moving parts. Of course, the David Eby recall is a big one right now. Of course, there's a whole campaign against David Eby's Vancouver riding. People are upset at him, and
people need to follow that. People up here need to follow that. I did not know about that until one of your posts, and he had made these comments about what he feels is best. And I think your comment on Facebook is what side of his mouth is this guy talking out of? Because here he is, what he feels is best, and here he is with a recall campaign against him.
Well, and here we go back again to survivability. So there's been recall legislation in this province for many years. It's been activated a number of times where it's a democratic process. If you are not happy with your MLA 18 months later, you can get 40. If you sign up 40% of your population or your voting population, you can have him removed. It's really quite a strong piece of legislation, and it's there as a check and balance.
Which is huge. I think that's important to keep.
It is, and there is a recall campaign against David Eby. It started last summer. There's a Facebook page, a Twitter handle. So what did he introduce in the legislation on Tuesday? He himself, who has a campaign against himself, has introduced legislation to make it harder for people to initiate a recall campaign.
And that's not even right. That's not even fundamentally right.
No, but, this is, again, going back to, the game's not going good for us. Let's change the goalpost again.
Yeah. Which is what we've seen.
It's
But we've seen that since the election, Dan. Like, every time they turn around, it's some sort of change they can make. It reminds me of the federal Liberals, because that's the kind of the mode that the federal Liberals went into, right? Is what can we change to try to ensure that our jobs and our pensions and our seats are secure? And
secure forever.
Yeah, and you know what? None of the jobs or the seats or the pensions should be secure because you're not doing a good job. And they're not. They're not doing a good job.
But, if proportional representation goes through, this is what we're in forever.
So the biggest message to people is it's a mail-in ballot. It is a little bit tedious, but it's going to take you 3 minutes to do it. You don't need to leave your home. Of course, now just to go and get your mail,
because, go to your mailbox.
Right? Yeah. Because of course the feds did that to us. But go out, grab your mail, literally fill it out, first past the post, or as they've seen, if they're that worried about wanting to be able to choose that, they can. But it's basically that the message is strong as one and done. And then mail it back in. Now, can you mail them up until November 30th? Is that the deadline to drop them?
No.
Okay.
It must be received in Vancouver by November 30th. Another thing that, we can, why wouldn't you do a post dated? Now people got, sometimes mail gets from Fort St. John to Vancouver in a couple days. Sometimes it takes a week.
Sometimes it's 10 days.
So we're saying you need to get your ballot in the mail no later than about the 20th. It's again, your guest last week there from the BC Conservative Party, stated that we're fear-mongering. I'm sorry, we're not fear-mongering. The government's doing a good job all by themselves, creating these unknowns, creating this uncertain path for the province. We're just trying to bring that to the population and say, look, this referendum is rigged. It's a stacked deck in a rigged game. That's our catchphrase. It's not good for us. It's not good for the province. Let's have a real conversation about electoral reform and how can we make this work for every British Columbian that's going to favor everybody and that's going to do everybody good. And that's not what we're seeing right now.
Agreed. Now you guys have a debate. So Andrew Wilkinson, leader of the BC Liberals, is going to debate with
November 8th.
The Premier on November 8th on Global. Which I'm sure it's going to be everywhere.
CBC.
So Global and CBC.
Yeah.
So people, if they want to see, I imagine Andrew Wilkinson is working hard on some of the questions as to getting the truth out of what's happening, even though Horgan keeps on just, fluffing the paper about how he's been a part of this and he's voted, but we know he's mandated to vote is because that's the only way he's ever going to be able to keep his seat as the Premier. So that's kind of a game changer. Yeah. And I am in hopes that Andrew Wilkinson will let that become public knowledge that the only reason the Premier of British Columbia is standing behind PR is because he has to. It's because he signed a deal with the devil and he has no choice.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's one of the questions. It's only a 30-minute debate, but it is commercial-free, so it's going to be, a solid 30 minutes. But, we can debate this, and again, you just ask some simple questions. And Melanie Mark had this question asked to her last week. What does this look like when it's all done? And you can't answer it.
Nobody knows.
You cannot answer that question because there's too many pieces missing.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to say that this is a flawed process because it is.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
He just needs to stick to those questions, and we're good. But number one, people, we have to get motivated to vote. This is a game changer. This is the vote, by the way, I think where, my vote won't count. Well, your vote will count because of the way that they've set this up. This is going to be won or lost, I think, by a couple thousand votes across the province.
I agree. I agree. Or by
think
ridings, by cities even. This is going to be determined down to the city.
It's going to be tight, and we need to make sure that the North, more than anything, because we're already behind the race, we need to show out and have an unbelievable record turnout. If you're 18, if you just turned 18, you need to make sure that you phone Elections BC and get registered. I know we have some new citizens in Fort St. John. This is going to be one of their first.
I've seen that. Alan, there was a group of a few of them on Facebook saying, yes, we can now vote. We can be a part of this, which is huge.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that we get everybody talking about it, phoning your friends. We all have family in Vancouver, Victoria, across the province. Phone your family and friends. Post on Facebook. We need to get the word out, and we've got about 10 days. We got about 20 days at the very limit to get it done. If you've already thrown your ballot out, my God, there has been so many people doing this. We have got pictures upon pictures of people in garbage cans. You can see them especially in apartment buildings and rural mailboxes. If you've thrown yours out thinking it wasn't important or thought it was just junk mail, call Elections BC. They will issue you another one.
Perfect. So they can get a second one now that they've realized how important this is. Okay, beautiful. So we gotta wrap up. Dave's giving me the signal. So the biggest thing is 18 days left. Get this filled out. Get this sent in. You've got 18 days. Don't allow somebody who's governed by a piece of paper to change how British Columbia operates.
Absolutely, this is critical for rural BC. I'll tell you that much.
Beautiful. Absolutely love your passion. Thank you for being on the show once again. I'm sure you and I will talk very much in the next 18 days. But for those of you that are listening or watching the show, go home today, or if you're home today, get this filled out, get it in the mail, take 2 minutes. Swear to God, you want to be a part of this. And like Dan said, it's going to be decided right down to municipalities.
Yeah.
So, Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, Hudson Hope, wherever you are, you have the say.
Very important. Keep first past the post.
Sounds good. One and done. Thank you, sir. We will talk to you soon.
All right. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, folks. Another edition of Trev Talks. We will see you here next Friday. In the meantime, stay warm and stay dry.
Our community first. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Bolin. You've been listening to Trev Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.